and welcome to today's very special episode of Sober on the Mic. My name is Lauren, and today we've got with us Kathryn, aka Sober Socks.
Yes.
How are you doing today, Kathryn? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, as I said, very much looking forward to a few days off the nice long weekend.
Yeah, that's what it's all about at this time of
Yeah,
year, isn't
yeah.
it? Right, if you're happy to, we will crack straight on with the 20 quick fire questions.
Yes, I did look at them before, so I have had a chance to kind of like think about them a little bit.
Good. Right, let's see how we get on. So, question number one, how old are you?
58.
58. And where are you from?
Leeds?
Leeds.
Yeah,
All the way up in the north of England.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Leeds. Yeah.
What's your star sign?
I'm a Leo.
Oh, a Leo then. Quite
Right.
good, a Leo, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think I'm quite typical as well, to be fair.
Yeah. Are you a cat person or are you a dog person?
Definitely dog.
Yeah. Have you got a
Yeah.
doggy?
No, have had cats to be fair, and my son at the moment is actually nagging me for another cat because he's a cat person, not a dog person. Yeah.
Good.
But at the
Hopefully he
moment,
gets his
no
own way.
pets. No pets at the minute.
What one word would your friends describe you as?
Well, I did actually put this out to my
Yeah.
friends in advance, and the word that kept coming up was resilient.
Yeah. I love that. Really,
Yeah,
really
yeah, it's
nice
quite
word.
nice that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Really important word to have as well if you're in recovery, isn't it? It's an important
To be
attribute.
fair, yes,
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. What daily habit do you do to keep yourself grounded?
I think it's making sure that I get enough sleep.
Yeah. Big one,
Um,
isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, if I and I need quite a lot of sleep to be fair, but I have
Mm.
learned that I need sleep, and if I don't sleep, everything else kind of like just it's like the sort of the bedrock to my day. So
Yeah.
sleep, yeah.
Yeah, when I run my meetings, we look at the HALT stuff. So that hungry, angry,
Angry,
lonely,
lonely, tired.
tired. And
Yeah,
that tired one is normally the one that kind of
yeah,
ticks a box, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
What is a quote or mantra that you live by?
Oh, I did write. It's not going to come to the top of my head, but I did write it down.
Nice, nice.
I did write it down. Oh, control the controllables. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
really,
Because
really
I have a
important.
couple, but no, control the controllables is one that I will kind of repeat to myself. You know, if you start to get a little bit antsy about
Yeah,
something, I kind of like take a breath and it'd be like, okay, what can we control here?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a brilliant one to have. Who is your hero?
My mum.
Oh, same as me. That's my
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
as
She
well.
is no longer with us, but yeah, it's got to be my mum. Yeah,
That's a really, really good one.
yeah.
What is a song that always lifts your mood?
Dancing Queen.
Ah,
And
yes.
to be fair, that actually does link to my mum, who was a huge ABBA fan, and I
Yeah,
grew up on a diet of all the ABBA albums, but Dancing Queen, without a doubt, just the
yeah,
first few notes, and yeah, it will lift my mood,
yeah.
without
Oh,
a doubt.
that's a
Yeah,
lovely, lovely
yeah.
answer. I'm going to put like a playlist together of all the songs that everyone has
Oh,
said so far. So
yeah,
you
what
got
great
a nice,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
you got a great one. Who would play you in the movie of your life?
I chose Gillian Anderson.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yes, I chose Gillian Anderson. A little bit of a girl crush,
Yeah,
but I just think that she's like a really kind of flexible actress,
yeah,
and yeah, I chose her. She's
yeah.
about, I don't know if she's a similar age to me, probably a bit younger, but yeah, Gillian
She's
Anderson.
great, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. And who would do the soundtrack?
A band called Lifehouse, which aren't particularly well known in the UK, and I was introduced to them many, many years ago
Mm.
by a friend in a gym, and I just love them. And I have seen them twice at very small gigs in the UK. They've never been back since, but it would be Lifehouse.
Oh, great. I'll have to check them out. I've never heard
Yeah.
of them. I'll check them out. If you could have a dinner party with a famous person, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ah, right. So I said Robin Williams.
Ah, that's a great one.
Yes, I thought that, yeah, I would love to. I think that whole thing about him being, the funny face and the man of comedy, and then obviously underneath that, there was obviously a lot going on for him, and then
Yeah,
he very sadly took his own life. So I think if I had an opportunity, I'd like to have dinner with Robin Williams.
yeah. That's a
Yeah,
that's a really good one. I think a lot of us guys connect with Robin Williams of that putting that face on,
yeah,
but actually inside there is a
yeah. And I
darker
think he's a bit
pain.
of a a bit of a genius as well, to be fair, you know,
Yeah.
probably a very, very clever man. So
Yeah.
I would have loved, I'd look, yeah, definitely him.
Yeah. I would insist he comes dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire as well, with the
Yeah,
cream on his face.
yes, yes, I would agree with that. Yeah.
If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
To be invisible. Although
Oh,
that's a funny one, that is it, because I think sometimes when you're in recovery, you kind of can relate to having spent a lot of your time of your life having felt invisible and
yes.
not noticed. But I think if it was a superpower, I'd quite like to be invisible now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that and flying is our most popular
Oh,
answer.
really? Yeah.
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 Do you have a guilty pleasure band, TV show, film, or hobby?
I do, yes. So, EastEnders, I
Oh.
got very invested in EastEnders last year when the live shows were on, after not having watched it for just ages, and I
Yeah.
got heavily invested. So EastEnders, boy bands, I've seen a few,
Nice, nice.
Boyzone, Westlife,
Have you seen
Kiss.
Boys Life? They're a mixture of the
No, no, I
two.
haven't.
Yeah.
And Made in Chelsea, which is
Yeah.
a little bit of a guilty pleasure that I watch and my daughter watches. And she lives in London, and then we get invested and we kind of have chats about what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
It's crap, but you work in substance misuse services, so I think you could appreciate this. It's like you just don't have to concentrate.
No, no,
It's just,
no.
complete and utter drivel, and it
Yeah.
is rubbish. But yeah, it's a guilty pleasure,
It turns
and
your brain.
I'm happy
I'm
to
the
own it.
I'm the same with that with the Real Housewives. There's something like
Yes.
Schadenfreudery, like you put it on, and just think,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
better. That's not my troubles. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you support a football team? And if
I,
yes, who?
I don't know. Football is not my thing. Never has been.
Yeah, probably for the best as well if you're from Leeds.
Probably.
And then to the more kind of bespoke questions of what we're here for. What was your drug of choice?
Alcohol.
Alcohol. And how old were you when you first noticed that you had an issue with substances?
Do you know, to be fair, probably I was always like the life and soul of the party, always drank through college. But I think in terms of having some kind of sense in the back of my mind that it was a problem, would have been in my very early 30s
Mm,
when I first became a mum, to be fair.
right.
The kind of mum wine culture when I
Yeah.
was on maternity leave and the mums getting together over a bottle of wine. Yeah, so I think that's when it probably kind of came into my consciousness of, yeah,
Yeah. And how long have you been sober for?
I have been sober for nearly 10 years now.
Oh,
10 years
blimey,
in
that's good
February.
innings.
Yeah, so I'm just in the midst of like actually planning some decade sober celebrations.
I was going to say that's a decade. Like
Yeah,
that's pretty
yeah,
good, isn't it? My
yeah.
mum hits 20 years sober next year, which
Wow.
is like wow. And me and my partner are trying to think of ways to kind of
Yeah,
be like
yeah,
20 years. That's
yeah,
incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
a decade, that's a really good innings. So that was the quick fire questions, and now we're going to kind of go more into your story. So, however you wish to start, tell us your story, Kathryn.
Um, so I reckoned sort of like obviously in various shapes of therapy over the years. And I did have a period of sober prior to this 10 years. So I've been on that journey for a long time. I was sober for
Mm,
3.5 years, back in 2003 as well.
yeah,
So it's been quite some time that I've been having a go at it.
yeah,
But I think that my relationship with alcohol, in all honesty, looking back, has never ever been about anything other than wanting to get drunk. And I
yeah.
think it first of all came about when my grandma died when I was 14. And I just have this memory of obviously not being old enough to go into the pubs, but getting together with mates and walking around the streets and drinking bottles of
Mm,
cider. And it just immediately sort of taking away the pain. So I think very early on, I knew that alcohol could be that choice of something to take away the pain.
yeah,
I don't know that it was ever about how nice it tasted.
yeah.
And that just followed me through all my teen years and then into sort of like relationships.
Mm,
I thought at the time that I needed alcohol to have any kind of personality,
Yeah.
to sort of like just be fun to be around.
Hmm.
So in my teens, it was, it was that kind of rite of passage that I was
Yeah.
the life and soul of the party. I was always drinking. But I mean, when I went to college, so I was at Polytechnic. I went to Polytechnic when I was 19. I went to Wolverhampton, there was a level of drunkenness that was named after me. So people would
Right.
not go out and get drunk. They'd go out and get blackburned, which might have been a bit of an indication that my
Yeah.
drunkenness
Yeah.
was sort of like at another level.
Yeah. It's
But
weird though, isn't
again,
it?
so
Because
yeah,
at that age, it's somewhat normalized, isn't it? Like going to the park with your mates when you're under 18 is like a rites of passage,
yep,
and then when you hit over 18, you're going out and you're allowed to go to pubs and you're allowed to
yeah,
buy it and stuff. But like you say, like I very much reflect on I wasn't drinking because I liked the taste of it, or it was the goal was to get hammered.
yeah, yeah. And I think initially the goal is to get hammered, but then I think as life sort of like, life experiences and incidents happen, you've already learned that the drinking will medicate the pain and will
Yes.
shift your reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in those years, kind of, sort of 20s, early 20s, it was all this rite of passage stuff, and it was and it was also all that I'd ever known. My dad was a big drinker,
Mm.
stroke alcoholic. So the behavior I'd only ever learned was about that's what you do when you're happy, when you're sad, you drink.
Yeah.
Everything was sort of like around drinking. And then I've got three children, and I was married to my daughter's dad, and he was a big life and soul of the party drinker. So the two of us together
Yeah.
were life and soul of the party drinkers. And I think my drinking then in sort of the early years of the children, been at home, then working part time, I've then recognized that the drinking sort of shifted into sometimes in the day, when like I wasn't working,
Hmm.
maybe I'd meet up with friends and we'd have the babies, but we'd have lunch and there'd be wine. Um, and that sort of like carried on. Then that relationship broke down, and I then was living on my own. And I think at first I was very conscious that living on my own was like, oh God, I can do what I want here. So
Hmm.
I tried to rein it back a bit, um, but then it went full on. And I want to say in about 2003, I just I had an experience where I kind of realized I was at this party, and I had this realization that there was that my drinking was not not normal and not
Yeah.
healthy. And I went into services. I went to get some help. I was living in Wales at the time. I was offered a place in a like a day rehab,
Right.
because I had young kids, and they had this setup where I could go into this day rehab for 12 weeks. I was working for a charity, which were a very, very progressive thinking charity, and they
Yeah.
actually let me have 3 months signed off sick.
Wow.
So I was signed off, went and did the day hab, and was really thrown into and introduced to the world of that was all 12-step recovery. So
Right.
I was engaging with Alcoholics Anonymous, I was going to meetings, I was doing service, I was on the helplines, and I was sober for about 3.5 years
Hmm.
at that time. Everything, life really was very improved. My health was improved, all my relationships were
Yep.
improved. I had a really good job. Um, and then I met someone.
Right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and all the things that they talk about in AA, although my sobriety journey in this last 10 years hasn't been with AA, but at the time, everything that AA predicted would happen when you meet somebody in early recovery and you stop going to your meetings, all came to pass. It
Yeah.
all came to pass. So I fell pregnant very quickly, moved away from the area that I'd found recovery, moved
Mm.
away from all my meetings, was moved away to Shropshire, became very isolated. Very quickly, it became apparent that that relationship was actually quite abusive
Right.
psychologically. all the telltale signs of being isolated from your comfort zone, from your networks, from your support systems. And about 4 months into having moved there, I started drinking again.
Yeah.
That was in
Um,
2000. Yeah, that was in about 2007.
and was the drinking the result of that kind of feeling trapped, or kind of what happened there? Because obviously after 3.5 years,
The
talk,
drinking was a result of me having convinced myself that I didn't have that much of a problem and
I'm
that I'd
okay now.
done my sobriety
Yeah.
and I would be all right now. And I mean, it's really quite classic,
Yeah.
Lauren. I started off drinking red wine because I never drunk red wine. Red wine
Yeah.
was not my drug of choice.
Yeah.
So it was a couple of glasses of red wine with a meal. And if my young daughters, well, they're now 27 and 28, but if they listen to this podcast, they will remember this time very clearly. And I apologize to them for the fact that it might be quite triggering for them, because obviously for them to then see their mum start drinking again, that would have been all very, very confusing
Yeah.
at the time. But that was it. My son was born in the March and I started drinking again in the April. By the summer, I was right back where I'd started. And then they talk in, don't they, in terms of lapses and
Mhm.
relapses. Well, I then went into a full-blown 9-year relapse, which
Yeah.
I don't even know if you would call it a relapse, but I did have 3.5 years sobriety before then. But the drinking got worse as the relationship sort of dynamics got worse and
Yep.
worse. And the relationship broke down. I moved out, moved the children out, and then eventually I did a logistics, but in the event, it was actually a good thing. I moved from Shropshire back to my hometown where I grew up.
Right.
Um, I then the drinking got worse because I was at home. And at the height of it, yeah, I was drinking all day.
Yeah.
Um, I would be seeing my son off to school. I would be opening a bottle of wine, and I would be drinking
Mm.
all day. Yeah, that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Um, and at that time, there were just the breakdown in the relationships with my family and my children. Um, the My younger daughter, the middle one. So I've got an older daughter, then a younger daughter, and then a young son. She had always been very vocal about my drinking.
Mm.
And when we were in Shropshire, tried very hard to kind of like get some support around it or reports to social care. But interestingly enough, the services that were around were actually more interested in the abusive dynamic and
Right.
the the sort of psychological abuse and the emotional abuse that the children were being exposed to,
Mm.
um, rather than sort of my drinking. I
Yeah.
think the services seemed to be able to understand that the drinking was a coping mechanism. That doesn't mean to
Yeah.
say it was right at all.
No.
Um, but the feeling was that splitting the family up wasn't actually
Yeah.
the right way to go at that time. And that but my youngest daughter, she left home when she was 14. She came back. She left home when she was 15. And she came back. She made it very clear that she wouldn't move back to Leeds with me if I was still drinking. And she moved back to Leeds and I was still drinking. And then she moved out again. And then my elder daughter, she was in university, and I'd been dragged to the doctor kicking and screaming to have blood tests, and the with the view to getting me into
Right.
treatment services, substance misuse services locally in Leeds, and I didn't want it. I can quite categorically say I was dragged kicking and screaming.
Hmm.
I At that time, I actually wanted to drink myself to death
Yeah.
because I felt like I didn't have the balls to actually end my own life.
Yeah.
So I would go to sleep at night kind of thinking maybe tonight will be the time that I won't wake up.
Yeah. That kind of
Um,
slow suicide process, isn't it?
yeah, s- really difficult to articulate, isn't it, though, in terms of that's where you're at.
Yeah.
Because on the other hand, you reflect back on like the behaviors and the people around you that you're letting down, but then you also reflect back on this sort of real personal agony that you're
Yeah.
living.
Yeah.
And then the the irony being then that when I did eventually rock up for the blood test, because this was where it started, was that I was to go for the blood test and I kept not turning up for the appointment because I was scared that my
Yes.
liver would be damaged. And
Yeah.
it just, what sense did that make to me? On the one hand, I'm wanting to like not wake up, and on the other hand, I'm scared to for the truth to be that
Yeah.
my liver is wrecked.
It's a really odd dynamic that we go through, isn't it?
Isn't that just like perplexing to reflect back
Yeah.
on? But that's where my head was at. And so my both daughters had left. My family had kind of done an intervention with my son and phoned social services. So Leeds social services were far more on the ball than Shropshire social services, I have to say. And they called me up and kind of interrogated me over the phone. But because I'd got appointments lined up, they didn't sort of take any immediate action.
Right.
They were happy to see whether or not the appointments were followed up.
Yeah.
And during this 3-month period that I was initially in services seeing somebody weekly, I was actually still drinking, and I was hiding it. So
Yep.
it got to really awful proportions then. And on 2 occasions, my daughters found the empty bottles and put them all on the table, took photos, and yeah, and this would be about 10 years ago now. It
Yeah.
was round about the Christmas time.
That must have been very confronting.
Yeah. So it was, and then I was saying that I was cutting down, and I was saying that I wasn't drinking, but I was hiding it, and I was drinking. We got through Christmas, and then the 5th of January, I remember quite well. That was when another whole load of empty bottles were found, and that really was shit or bust.
Yeah.
The girls left, one back to Shropshire and one back to university, and I had an appointment with the. I was seeing somebody from the local services with through the GP surgery,
Right.
and I went to see her. I remember it very clearly. I went to see her, and it was a Tuesday in the middle of February, and I don't know what she saw on that day. I really don't know what she saw, but she saw something, and we've had a conversation since because I then worked with her, and she said, I knew I had to get you in. I had a window of time, and if I didn't get you in by the end of that week, we would have lost the moment. But
Yeah.
I don't quite know what it was that she saw.
Mm.
And she made an appointment for me to see a detox worker because I really was drinking at a level where there was a concern that I was physically dependent.
Yeah.
And then going to work for that substance use service afterwards, I realised she really did pull a miracle because she got me an appointment with him on the Friday, and this was the
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
That is
you
a
can,
miracle.
you know,
Yeah.
so I came back from the appointment on the Tuesday, and I had an appointment booked in with a detox worker, and the idea was that I would sort of undergo a community detox.
Mm.
They were happy for me to have the detox at home. They were happy that there was support, by which time my daughters were on board for the detox, but not on board for like any particular sort of mother-daughter bonding.
Yeah.
And that was the Tuesday, and I started Googling what I would need to do to not have to have this community detox. To this day, I have no idea why. I really have no idea why.
It's that final bit of the addiction just holding on, isn't it, for dear life?
And the appointment was on the Friday, so I decided that I would have to not drink on the Thursday. And I went to Boots and bought some of those little things that you blow into, so because I knew I would be breathalyzed.
Yeah.
And so I took my last drink on the 11th of February. I think it was round about lunchtime.
Mm.
No, sorry, I took my last drink on the 10th of February because 11th of February was my first full day without a drink, and the appointment with the services was on the 12th.
Right.
So I took my last drink on the 10th of February and then kept blowing into this thing on the 11th of February and then rocked up for the appointment with the detox worker on the 12th, and I blew zero, so I didn't have to go through a community detox. Now, I will say for anybody listening that that is not a very good way to reduce from 200 units a week. And obviously, I then learned that that wasn't a very good thing to do. But everything's very personal, and I didn't actually go through any significant withdrawals, sweats, shakes. And I think that's just a thing that was personal to me. And it's not,
Yeah.
I would never, ever recommend anybody that I've worked with, and I've worked with hundreds of clients, I would never recommend anybody do that. Just by the way,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to put that proviso in. But I went for the appointment on the 12th and I met the detox worker, but didn't need to have the detox. But then I was in treatment then. I'd had the
Yep.
assessment, I was in treatment, and it was like shit or bust. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah,
Sorry.
of course you are.
I had nowhere left to hide. That was it now. I had rocked up fully exposed, pretty much. I might as well have been naked as I walked through
Yeah.
those doors. That's how I felt. I felt raw and
Mm.
naked. And then I just surrendered.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on at the time, but I literally just surrendered to it. And what I then did was I went to the appointment. The appointment was very positive. I then had the weekend, obviously, which is not a great time to be
Yeah.
facing your first. And my initial sort of approach to it was, and this was all in my own mind, was I need this to be about everything other than not drinking. I can't have this be about me focusing on not drinking. And at the time, because I'd been into services, I'd had various health checks. My blood pressure was very high. My cholesterol was a bit dodgy, and I was very overweight. And I have on and off during my life done fitness stuff, usually as a way to just come off the booze for a month,
Yeah.
I do the whole fitness thing, like
Yeah.
no carbs, go, yeah.
I'll just
So
obsess about this for a bit.
I thought I'm going to, and I also didn't want to do a big announcement. So I decided to hide it initially around, I've had a health scare. My blood pressure's high.
Yeah.
I need to stop drinking and I need to concentrate on my health. And I was in services. I was very, very, very lucky that the service that I went into had just sort of like moved from various services in Leeds into a big service in the summer, and they had started a team called the Family Plus team. And I was one of the first Family Plus clients because I had an 8-year-old living at home with
Yeah.
me. And they came over and they have emotional wellbeing support for my son. And I have a Family Plus worker where we talk about anything other than not drinking. And she was like, have you signed up with a dentist? Because I'd only moved to Leeds. No, I'm not with a dentist. What about, would you like to join the sports centre? So she signed myself and Zach up with this Leeds Active card, and we could go swimming twice a
Yeah.
week for free because I was on benefits as well at the time. And I could go to the gym twice a week for free. And I downloaded this bloody Couch to 5K app.
Yeah.
And I had this little routine. Then Zach and I would go the swimming twice a week, and I would do the Couch to 5K. And slowly, like this little routine started to develop. I'd be going to my appointments with the service once a week. I'd got my little appointments with the gym. Zach would have his appointments, and this routine sort of started to form, and I was starting to feel weller in myself physically. And then the liver function test came back. And that was like, to me, that was my second chance because my liver was stressed, but it wasn't damaged. So I'd gone from 6 weeks earlier wanting to drink myself to death to now thanking my body for actually seeing me through and give me this second opportunity
Yeah.
to kind of be healthy.
Mm.
And I really embraced that initially. It was I really, really embraced more like the physical health side of it. As in, even my kids said, we can't, that's actually a miracle. It's a
Yeah.
miracle that I've come out of the way that I bombarded my body with booze for so many years, and that I came out kind of pretty much unscathed.
Yeah.
6 months later, they redid my tests and my liver had recovered.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, so that's sort of like the the initial side of it. That was kind of like how the first year progressed, and then 3 months in, the girls could see that I was obviously very, very committed to what was happening, and we started that sort of process of rebuilding,
Yeah.
sort of like the relationships. And yeah, and that sort of like I wouldn't want to then go into like the what has happened over the last 10 years, because it's just it's been amazing. It's been
Yeah.
the best. It's just been the most incredible 10 years of my whole life. I can't say anything more than that. I found myself started the couch to 5K, and then found myself on the start line for the London Marathon a year later.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Wow.
My mum was blind, and I just decided I literally had finished the Couch to 5K right at the time that everybody was applying for this ballot for London. And I was like, what's that about? Oh, you can apply to do the London Marathon, but nobody ever gets in, but you can do it for charity. So I was like, well, I want to do it for Guide Dogs for the Blind, because my
Yeah.
mum was blind and all she'd ever done in her life was raise money for guide dogs. And she was very well known in our local area for having a guide dog and being known
Yeah.
with the guide dogs. So I wrote to Guide Dogs, not knowing that they have 14,000 applications, 750 places for people to run. I had no idea what world I was walking into when it
Yeah.
was talking about worlds of marathons and things like that. But I was very lucky. I got a place to run London Marathon for Guide Dogs for the Blind. And my mum was still alive then. So it was the year before she died. So she was at home with my auntie, and they were like watching the London Marathon, and my auntie was like tracking my. And yeah, to have been able to do that, um, sort of
It's
for a
incredible.
charity that meant
Yeah.
such a lot. I might get a bit emotional but for a charity that meant such a lot to my mum, um, before she died, just well, it's just, I just it was mind blowing. And yeah,
Yeah.
London Marathon is everything that everybody says it is. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely just fantastic. It was just like a big long party. You are running, obviously.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere just it's something else. And it was my thing. And one thing then when I started to work with people was that my thing when I got into recovery was just about my health, about doing mad fitness things, basically because I was like, so my body is amazing. It's actually survived
Yeah.
all that shit. Let's see what more we can do.
Yeah.
So I kind of set myself these mad physical challenges. But then I know people who they sort of tap into creative streaks, or people that everybody has a something. I met somebody in early recovery who was gathering together lots and lots of people's old clothes and cutting them up and just making
Yeah.
things with old clothes. And I would always say to somebody, you just need to find your own thing. What worked for me, I can't prescribe what worked for me to somebody
Yeah.
else. And the last thing somebody wants to hear when they walk through the door to have an appointment with you is, oh, have you tried going out for a walk? Have you
Yeah.
tried joining the gym? People don't want to hear that.
No.
It's about trying to help them to work out what might be a thing for them,
What they
and
enjoy and what
what
they
they enjoy.
enjoyed before
And
or
it's
what
got
they
to be,
might have
yeah,
enjoyed.
and it's
Yeah.
got to be more than distraction. Distraction will only work for so long. Some people like music. Music is a big thing for some people, isn't it? So my thing for a long while was setting myself just ridiculous fitness goals. And I went on to do Ironman triathlon, ultra marathons, absolute mad batshit crazy stuff. And I did most of it I've done for charity for the Family Plus team at the substance misuse service that I was working at.
That's incredible.
And just as a way of like, you know what, if my body could survive most of its adult life just being poisoned,
Yeah.
then let's see what else we can achieve. And yeah, so that's kind of how my recovery panned out until very recently, until the last couple of years. And then I've experienced the whole menopause thing.
Yeah.
And then I've had to like go back to basics and think, right, you know, that was an identity that I'd kind of built for myself. Who am I going to be now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to ask me any questions about any of that. So I feel as if I've spoken for ages.
No, I suppose for me, the concept for people listening to this who might be actively still using that time frame for you of alcohol dependency and then a year later running a marathon. It's
Yeah, and you know,
incredible.
it's and there were conversations that were had when I was seeing my practitioner about a lot of people talk about transferring addiction, don't they?
Yeah, cross addiction.
But actually, you know, he was very supportive and he was said, Kathryn, if you were running here to the appointments and running back again, and you know, I might be worried, but he said he asked me about the training program that I was doing, and I actually did get myself a coach for that very reason, because I didn't want to. A, I didn't know what I was doing for a start, and B, I didn't want to slip into overtraining, because you know the mindset can be quite obsessive, can't it?
Yeah.
And that can be a positive. I think
Yeah,
I've always
sometimes that
embraced
obsessional thinking can be used in a good way, can't it?
I've always used that in a passionate way to sort of like motivate myself
Mm.
forward, and always stopped short, I think, of it being something that would then cause me any sort of damage, either physically or emotionally.
Yeah.
So but I did have the conversations with him about that crossing, you know, transferring your addictions and just sort of obsessively focusing on something else. But I looked after myself. I ate well. I rested when I was meant to rest, and rested if I had any niggles or felt ill. So I felt quite, you know, I felt comfortable that it was okay, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sort of straying into that area.
Yeah, there was a respect for your body, wasn't there?
Yeah, but I'm a determined bugger,
Mm.
and I got that place, and I was determined to be on the start line and in a strong place to be able to run a marathon. I mean, it
Yeah.
is nothing short of a miracle. People that knew me in school, I was never sporty, ever sporty. I've always been kind of overweight, even if it's just slightly. But it really did stem from that. Well, if my body can survive that, what more
Yeah.
can we do?
Yeah.
And I'd
And
always fancied triathlon, and I don't know why. I dabbled in swimming and triathlon many years before when I was still drinking. Never got very far with it at all. I don't really know where that came from. So once I'd finished the London Marathon, the coach I was working with could do triathlon coaching, and right. So I mean, I had never learned how to swim front crawl, and I'd never sat on a road bike. But it was like, this is how big my world got, was
yeah.
that if I just felt very empowered
Yeah. I can imagine you
with
did.
recovery. It's that getting that liver result, actually, I've known people where they've actually gone the other way, where
Yes,
it's
I
been
was going to say that.
that it's like, oh right, okay, let's go out there and have another go.
Yeah, I haven't done
Because
any damage. I'm fine. Let's crack
and
on. Yeah.
but in my mindset, it was just relief and gratitude to my
Yeah.
body, and right, you know, let's sort of worship in this healing now, the body that has actually,
Yeah.
you know, survived you this far. Let's respect it, let's look after it. And now I'm like, you know, the things that I do now I still want to be doing when I'm 80. I'm
Yes.
very much
Yeah.
about longevity. and sort of like lifestyle fitness and healing in that sense.
Yeah. I think what's fascinating as well is the concept of it wasn't in your mindset before. It was like a new thing, a new hobby, a new passion that you didn't realize you had until you got sobriety. And I think I really love I really love seeing people open to that, open to there might be something I'm incredibly passionate about that I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And
And
that's the
also,
exciting bit about recovery, isn't it?
yeah, it's very exciting, but also, do you think, I think as well, like putting the ego at the door and realizing you don't have to be good at it. I
Yeah.
mean, I was bloody good at drinking,
Yeah. It's that progress, not
medal
perfection thing,
winning.
isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I did want to share a little bit about therapy as well, I think, for listeners, and that was, I I I went to a conference recently and I heard a couple of well, a professor speak and somebody with a lot of lived experience, and they were talking about sort of like how they break down recovery journeys into sort of like early recovery, and they talk about the incidences of relapse in early recovery and how like once you get kind of post 5 years, and they talk about then you're in your sort of established recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd actually talked about the messy years in between. And, even now, like 10 years on, I can only reflect, can't I, 10 years on about the messy
Yeah.
years in between? Because in early recovery, there's definitely like a 2 year complete honeymoon period.
Yes.
It was the just as I got sober was the kind of like the rise of Instagram influencers. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be a sober influencer, like with like 3 weeks recovery under my belt.
Yeah.
And I was really, that sort of like I'm gonna sort of and quickly like decided against that because there were run influencers. It was right at that time that it
Yeah.
all became, um, and so I had like that there were two years of honeymoon. Everything was just fantastic, everything. And then the cracks started to show. So we have a couple of years where you're rebuilding the relationships with your kids, and your kids are really behind you, really supportive. They're loving the fact that you're on this journey. And then they start to reflect, well, it never should have been this way anyway. And
Yeah.
so there was a rocky period with my youngest daughter when I was 2 years in recovery. She left again.
Mm.
And kind of, I really, really had to step back and let her be in the place that she was
Yeah.
in. And it was hard because I kind of had, my approach with the kids was that I want to be very, very accountable for my behavior,
Yeah.
for the times I wasn't present, for what they were exposed to. But I would not be living my life in shame.
Yeah.
I would not. I wanted to send a message that you can change
Yeah.
and that it's okay to change, and that we don't want, I didn't want to then live the rest of my life under a cloud of shame, but I
No.
wanted to be accountable. Um, and so then I sort of went on my own therapy journey, but probably not until 3 or 4 years into recovery. Um, Relationships, as in intimate relationships, were really challenging.
Yeah.
I've been single now. I've been on my own for like 5 years. After another disastrous kind of heartbreak that
Yeah.
took me into therapy, but took me to the childhood stuff.
Yeah.
But there is no way, Lauren, that I would have been strong enough at 2 years sober, 3 years
No.
sober to go there and to go to those places about childhood, about attachment, abandonment, trauma, rejection stuff, caregiver stuff, inner child stuff. There is
You
no
got
way.
to be in the right place to do it, don't you? I think a lot of people in recovery think everything's got to be fixed all at once, and it's like,
Yeah.
actually, if you do that all at once, you're probably more likely to make yourself ill.
And I think you do think you want to fix it all at once, but then I think about so the questions in the questions there was something asked about significant times, and I'm just going to go back to that because I did write a couple of things in there. So you said 3 moments that changed your life in terms of your recovery, and what advice can you give from this? So I
Yeah.
have actually put three things in there.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah, so one was my mum died just after I was 2 years sober. So I can remember going to see her on the day that I was 2 years sober with my daughter, and she died the following month. And on the back of that, I had to sort of be involved with funeral planning with my dad and my brother. And in their wisdom, they invited me to the pub to plan my mum's funeral. And it was quite a surreal experience because I come from a family of big drinkers.
Yeah.
So we were in the pub and they were obviously drowning their sorrows in their pints. And I was drinking my coffee. And I overwhelmingly felt that I just wanted to get hammered.
Yeah.
That's all I could think of was I absolutely want to just get so drunk right now. And I sat with it and I went home and I really thought about what was going on. And for me, the light bulb moment was that I knew that I actually didn't want to drink. What I wanted to do was I wanted to change the way that I felt.
Yes, it's such a
And
big thing, isn't it?
I had had that said to me until I actually was sitting in that moment and realized it, that it was nothing to do with drink at
Mm.
all. I just wanted to change the way that I felt. And I was also very angry. I was also very hurt by my family at that time that there was no sensitivity to that particular planning your mum's funeral
Yeah.
in a pub. And when I know that a lot of people around me were very concerned at the time
Yeah.
that I may relapse, to be fair, I wouldn't have because I know my mum was so proud. There's
Mm.
just never entered my head. But
No.
how did I deal with this sensation that I wanted to get pissed? How do I deal with that? Because actually, what I want to do is I want to change the way that I feel.
Yeah.
And I just started with the simple things like getting up, walking around the house, brushing my teeth, all the stuff that we talk to. I mean, you work in services, so I'm
Yeah.
sure you work with. Um, Eating ice cream, that's always a good one for me. Like
Yeah.
that really fixes my feelings. A tub of
Yeah.
Ben and Jerry's. So that was one when you say about the 3 moments.
I think that's a brilliant as well to, I think, like you say, people can tell you're looking to change how you feel, but
Yeah,
it's actually only when you're in that moment of, I don't want to drink, I want to be plastered here. That is, you're wanting to change how you feel. And
how
it's
you
such a big
feel. Yeah.
difference, isn't it, than just that monotonous, I want drink, I
And
drink. It's
and also
breaking it
that, yeah,
down.
and also then learning to tolerate that discomfort. So, and that's why I think that therapy, if you feel the need for therapy that's going to go into your childhood and all that kind of stuff, that's why you need to be very careful around the timing of that, because I could only do it when I did it because I'd had many years experience of learning how to tolerate discomfort.
Yeah.
Um,
If you haven't got that yet,
and I
actually
think that's,
therapy can be so triggering and
yeah,
re-traumatizing, can't it?
and that's why sometimes with sort of statutory services, God bless them, they want to give everything to the clients that come through the door, but they can't tolerate
No.
discomfort initially. It's impossible to do. It
Yeah.
has to be learned over a period of time, and you have to be so gentle and kind with yourself, so gentle, and also have people around you that will hold space and be gentle and
Yeah.
kind for you. um but it was a light bulb moment for me, even though I'd been told that so many times. It was a light bulb moment because I actually feel like I experienced it. And you know
Mm.
what? And I still experience it now and I own it. I will own it and openly say, God, you know what? I really could do with getting shit faced right now.
Yeah.
But I know that I just want to I want to change the
I
way that
want
I
to change how
feel.
I feel.
I want
Yeah.
to change that I feel. And obviously when you kind of like learn about working with trauma and stuff, they talk about the window of distress tolerance, and it's very, very narrow, isn't it? In
Yeah.
the early days, and over a period of time, you
It
kind of
gets,
rewire.
yeah.
The other one I've put was and this is a really good one. I think I was working with a coach towards my second Ironman, and I think I'd posted something a bit cryptic on social media, and I was at work, and my coach called me. He's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Nah, you know, nah." And he said something to me, and I don't think I would have tolerated anybody saying that what he said to me at all at that time. It was not what I wanted to hear. But you know, sometimes the messenger is the most unusual of messengers.
Yeah.
And he just said, "Well, look, Kathryn, no one's coming to save you." And it's hard, isn't it? It's a
Yeah.
really hard thing to hear from
But
somebody.
it is
And
true.
if I hadn't have heard, if it had been somebody else, I'd have been like, well, you
Whack.
know,
Yeah.
but it really, and that's just stuck with me now, you know,
Yeah.
whenever there's a sort of like something that's not going my way, or I mean, I'm not in 12 steps now, but I actually have I don't know if you familiar with 12 steps, but
Yeah.
there's a page in the big book called Acceptance, and I have that paragraph screenshot, and I kind of live by that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So um yeah, no one's coming to save you. And it was like I was on the phone, I was like, I don't
Yeah,
think I would.
really jarring initially, but actually then when you think and process it, it's that I think that's quite empowering when you if you hear that in a different set of ears.
Yeah, yeah. So that was another thing, and that will have been in sort of like 2021. So I'd been sober for a good long time, and then the third one was the end of the last relationship that I was in, which actually led me into 15 months really intense therapy, where
Mm,
I kind of sought out a therapist, having navigated and unpicked a bit what kind of some of the issues might be. And I was just like, "Do you know what? I just don't want to keep on doing this."
yeah.
When I first got sober, my goals were as narrow as I'll, heal myself physically, I'll heal my relationships with my kids, I'll try and get myself a decent job, and then I'll find a man
Mm,
and live happily ever after.
yeah.
And I sort of had a couple of relationships, and they ended the same ways as the ones when I was drinking. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's not the drink. What's going on?
Yeah.
And yeah, so the end of that relationship, whilst it was really painful, heartbreaking, took me a long time to get over emotionally. It led me into therapy, and then I had this therapy, and it was life changing. Doing
Yeah.
the absolutely life changing. So those were the three on your pre-questions you asked about, the three sort of big, those were the three big moments
Yeah.
that I can
And
identify.
I think they're fantastic little like examples and I love the concept of finding the right time for therapy. I think that's a brilliant message and a bit of advice. I think, like I said earlier, I work with so many people who, when they hit recovery in that pink fluffy cloud thing, and I'm ready now, I want to fix everything, I want closure and everything. And it's Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's that kind of
And it
taking your
is,
time.
it is a journey, not a destination,
Yes.
and I have a friend, I mean, he may listen to this, so I'm not going to mention his name, but I have a friend that's, we've been having conversations about his drinking for probably about 3 years, and he's now having some health issues as well that might be related. And I said to him, you do not have any problem being sober. You have proved over the last 3 years you can stop drinking for periods of time, but you need to want recovery.
Yeah,
And those things are actually quite different.
they
And
are.
I've
They
only
are.
realized that myself, sort of like
Yeah.
later down the line, that my recovery now is so much more than just not drinking.
Yeah, that's just the start of it.
Yeah,
Because that is your life can't be working towards a negative. Your life can't be my whole life now is I'm not doing this thing.
yeah.
You got to get the other gains in there, and there's recovery is so much more than I used to drink or I used to use and now I don't. It's it's a million different decisions and
It's
choices every
yeah,
single
every
day, isn't
single day.
it?
And also, there is, and I said, you have to, whether you like it or not, or whether you think it's woo-woo or not, there is a spiritual, like psychological, emotional healing
Yeah.
um element. Oh,
Yeah.
You still there?
Yeah.
Elements to it. Um, and unfortunately, you can't have recovery without that.
No.
You will just be not drinking for a period of time and then thinking you're okay and drinking again for a bit and then repeating the
Yeah.
cycle. And one of the things that I found this time in recovery was that actually it was so freeing in the
Yeah.
end to not have to battle that again.
Yeah. Because I suspect this journey feels so different to the one when you had the 3.5 years. I bet this feels completely
Yeah,
different.
and I mean, we can, we can have conversations about like 12-step recovery and people that recover in other ways. And I've been in conversations where there's the sort of argument about you're not really in recovery unless you're following a 12-step program,
Mm.
or and there's that sort of like my mum used to say it was a bit like, so my mum was totally blind, but and they would have that there would be this kind of like sort of tussle between people that were totally blind and people were partially sighted, and the partially sighted people would get guide dogs, and the people then that were totally blind didn't think it was fair that the partially sighted, you know what I mean, it was like
Yeah.
that kind of thing,
Hierarchies.
going on.
Yeah.
And you know what, I don't care how people recover, if they, if they're recovering and it's working for them,
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
That's
But I do
exactly the
get a
same
little
with
bit
me.
tetchy when people kind of dismiss my recovery because it maybe isn't aligning with a 12-step program. And I do sometimes worry about like the handling of trauma. The
Yeah.
more and more you learn about trauma, um, but but when I went to when I moved to Leeds and got into recovery in Leeds, and I was encouraged, obviously, to engage with mutual aid, whatever
Yeah.
way it looked at. And I did go, and I went to an AA meeting, and I sat in an AA meeting as I had sat in an AA meeting like well over 10 years before. And it made me smile because there was like exactly the same documents were put out, exactly the same posters were put up, and I just went back to my recovery coordinator at the time and I just said, it's not for me.
Yeah.
I've moved on at 10 years in my life and it felt like I was going back. I'm in a different place now. I'm doing
Yeah.
different things. And I actually then went to Smart Recovery,
Yeah.
and for a period of time engaged in that. So it was just different.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
But
I'm a smart facilitator, and it's very much more tools based, isn't it?
yeah, and I think it was just like it was just that because and I didn't want that psychological sense that I was going back because for some bizarre reason that kind of made me feel like a failure. I know that was my
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I know that was my stuff, but it was important at the time that I didn't want to feel like that.
Yeah.
But it felt like, so I wanted to find like my a different way that felt like I was moving forward.
Yes.
So, but I do think that it is important for the connection with other
Yes.
people that understand what you're going
Yeah.
through whatever means that is. I mean, luckily, recovery treatment services have group
Mm.
work, so I went to various different
Yeah.
groups. A lot of them, I think, now are bringing in the LEROs, the lived experience recovery
Yeah.
organisations. Also, I think there's a lot more acceptance of doing creative stuff, as in you don't
Hmm.
necessarily need to sit and talk to your navel. You can actually be
Yeah.
colouring, you can
Yeah.
be draw, there's a lot more art therapy, stuff like that.
Yes.
And I think it's really good that that's coming into this space, and not just being about sitting down in a white room, like talking to
Yeah.
somebody in a clinical space.
I
Because,
I agree. Whatever way you find it, whatever way works for
yeah,
you. I used to, when I was being trained in being a recovery worker and having my own lived experience, the main thing I was taught was throw the shit and see what sticks. Something
yes,
will land for everyone, and
something,
I
and also, when you then do go into people come and go and people come and go, but I always think that something stays. I don't
yeah.
think that if somebody comes into the space 2 or 3 times and then leaves and you don't see them for another 6 months, that something hadn't stuck
Worked. Yeah.
I do think that,
It's
I
seed
think, yeah,
planting, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
believe that. I really, really do believe that. That I think there were lots of seeds that were planted on my journey in at lots of different points
Mm.
before this particular
Yeah.
sort of chunk of
Yeah.
recovery.
Yeah. Fantastic. So my final question is, do you have any books, albums, any recommendations for our audience members to read or listen to that will might help them on their journey?
So I had reflected because obviously I have listened and to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of books. I mean, when I first got sober this time, Quit Lit was it.
Yeah.
It was very, very prominent. So I'm a big fan of Gabor Mate,
Yeah.
a huge fan of Gabor Mate. So anything that he writes or says, I mean, I could like go into a days listening to him talk.
The work he
Um,
does on trauma is
yeah,
unbelievable, isn't it?
absolutely. One of the first books that I read was actually The Sober Revolution by Lucy Rocker.
Yeah.
That was one of the first books, and I remember having it on audiobook and listening to it thinking, has she actually been stalking me? It was so relatable. And
Yeah.
then of course she's got Soberistas movement, hasn't she? But Calling Time on Wine O'Clock, I read that probably within the first couple of months of getting sober 10 years ago, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, I've read several times.
Yeah.
And I've recommended that to many clients that I've worked with as well. I just think that's a fantastic. I haven't read any of the other Kathryn Gray Unexpected Joys of, but that one I absolutely love. What else have I got here? Yeah, so after the last heartbreak, before I went into therapy, I read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and I think it's just an amazing read.
Yeah.
It's not just about because Glennon Doyle is actually in recovery. It's just a really good kind of tools type read. But I've had 2 or 3 friends that have read it and have actually said that they've found it quite life-changing. It's very
Mm.
motivational in terms of I have one friend I think that kind of like retired early from a job and then set up an online business because she just felt so empowered and
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm not a big podcast person because I do listen to podcasts, but they're political podcasts, so I
Right.
won't mention those.
I love the fact I'm not a big podcast person. She says on a podcast.
As in, I mean, yeah, no, yeah. When you say so I couldn't actually tell you what the big recovery podcasts are. I have different ways of getting my information.
Yeah.
So with recovery stuff, it's all very much books or following people on Instagram and reading their stuff.
Yeah.
Podcasts, for some reason, I listen to political
Yeah.
podcasts, but I don't read about political stuff. It's
No. It's
bizarre
weird. It's funny, isn't it?
how you
Yeah.
get your kind of how you get your education.
Yeah.
I have listened to some podcasts though, recovery podcasts.
This is the best one though, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean you're getting loads of people on. It's really inspiring in that sense because
Yeah.
I think sometimes what it is what I like about what you're doing is that it's like not I say normal people
Yeah.
because sometimes the bigger podcasts you're just listening to famous people tell their
Yeah.
story,
And I
and
don't want
I
that.
really like the idea of these are the people that are walking amongst us day
Yeah.
in day out,
Yeah.
like humans of recovery kind of
Yeah.
thing.
That's kind of what I
Yeah,
wanted. I didn't want this big super glamorous thing. I just wanted something that people can access at
because
weekends or out of hours by real people.
sometimes like the famous names in recovery just are really difficult to relate to.
They got money,
I
haven't
mean,
they?
yeah, struggles that I've had, I lived as a solo parent on benefits,
Mhm.
and had to like take that, that huge decision to give all that up to go to work for a
Yeah.
pittance.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, famous people, like I couldn't even take my son to the flipping cinema for years because we didn't have 30 quid
The
spare.
money. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
so
I wanted the podcast to be relatable and
yeah.
tips from real people that you can implement in your life as opposed to, oh, I just then went into a multi-million-pound rehab and I was all right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the I basically got a job in a treatment service. So I had done diploma in addiction studies many years ago when I was first sober. So I did it through distance learning, and so I had that qualification and I had a little bit of experience. But I was caring for my mum, and then when my mum went into a home, I found myself in a position where I needed to get a job. So I
Yeah.
applied to where I'd been a client and got a job as an early intervention and prevention
I think
practitioner.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I did that for 3 years. Then I left and went to manage a team in a different service, and then came back to that service and managed a team there for
Yeah.
3 years. And now I work in health and justice with probation, which is really very different, but
Yeah.
still it's marginalized communities and
It's the
supporting unmet
different
needs
but the
and health
same.
inequalities. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Same kind of stuff. Yeah, same kind of
Yeah.
passion.
I love that. One of my favorite things in the world is seeing the process of service user, volunteer, staff.
Yeah,
It's
I did. I volunteered for 6 months
mm,
with a not actually with the substance misuse service, with something called Wi-Fi, West Yorkshire Finding Independence, but working with the cohorts that were touching criminal justice,
yeah,
homelessness, and substance misuse, and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I
amazing
couldn't see myself not working in
in this
that
field.
area.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't. I just couldn't see it. No,
I always think I don't even know what I'd be if I didn't
no.
do this.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because this last year I have gone through that whole thing of like, who am I if I don't work for the service that I recovered with, because that's been the cornerstone of my recovery. They've been my family when my family weren't
Yeah.
around. And I took this huge sort of like leap out of my comfort zone to take this new role.
Mm,
Um, but I've only just started reading this thing about the year of the snake. I'm quite into astrology or whatever, and it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I kind of have found a new path now, and I am okay without sort of like needing to go into that service every single day, and
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
But
it's
it's been
fantastic.
that has been, like 9 years in, I really did have kind of a bit of an identity crisis for a while, thinking,
Mm,
or even like, will I be okay if I'm
yeah.
not working for them and I'm not like in contact, because it keeps you humble,
It
it
does.
keeps you grounded, and it's a daily reminder of like where you've come from.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to that sort of stuff,
No,
isn't it? Yeah.
so it's quite empowering as well to then actually find that you have got the confidence to kind of survive and be
Yeah.
okay without that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I mean, you never lose sight of it, but it's definitely a daily reminder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very, very true. Very, very true. Thank you so much for your time today, Kathryn. Your
That's okay.
story and your advice, it's been one of the best ones we've done, I think. I think people will learn a lot from this one. I am so
Oh, thank you.
truly, truly grateful for your
I,
time
I,
today.
I, when I saw it, I was like, right, I'm going to have a go at this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
no.
I think I've been on a couple of podcasts, but it's. I'm trying to think. I think they may have been more to do with like the the marathons and the
Yeah.
Ironman side of it, more
Yeah.
than talking about the recovery side of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done a couple in the past, but no, not as focused on the
Yeah.
recovery. No.
I honestly, you've been so honest
And
and
to be
brilliant.
fair, one of the things was that, I don't know if you've experienced this, but what I found was that the higher I climbed the career ladder, the less my voice of lived experience became. Well,
Yeah.
it was, I won't say it was silenced, because it wasn't, because obviously it's my voice of lived experience
Mm.
to share. But there was a sort of like in the beginning, I would be like wheeled out to share my lived experience, but then as you climb the ladder, and then more recently, when I've been to these couple of conferences and listened to like professors who are really working in that lived experience field, I'm like, I've still got a story to tell.
Yes.
And then this came up as an opportunity to come on this podcast, and I thought, God, that's serendipity, that
Yeah,
is.
it's a lovely bit of fate, isn't it? Oh, that's
Yeah.
lovely. But yeah, lived experience stories and talks, I think, is the answer. So I'm so grateful to you for sharing your story so
It's been an absolute
openly and
pleasure. It's
honestly.
been lovely. It's
Yeah.
been very therapeutic for me too, to be fair, to have that like opportunity to reflect as I'm coming up to 10 years as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And if you ever
Thank
need
you for the
anything from us
opportunity.
again, let us know.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you too.
And you. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Take